Hey friend, hope you're having a good day. It's Ashley with Paint It Up and welcome to the replay. We are going to paint a hummingbird from one of my tracers in the Art Girls membership. If you will type !notify all together, make sure you put that exclamation point in there. It will send you a notification every time that I go live. But I'm glad you're here and I am looking forward to painting this hummingbird. It's been requested by some of my art girls and I wanted to do that for them because they have access to the tracer. You can grab the tracer. If you type new N-E-W in the comments, it will send you a link to your inbox where you can grab this tracer and you can come back and watch the tutorial. The tutorial will be live for 30 days and then it goes into the Art Girls vault. So but anyway, I say vault like that's like something secretive. It's not. You can be a part. You can have access to. So I'm going to cut off the camera a little bit because I got a growth up here from being on vacation and getting sunburned and continuously scratching my head. Yeah, not good. But anyways, we had a good time on vacation. I'm glad to be back home and sleeping in my own bed and all the fun things, but we had a great time. And so we'll talk a little bit about vacation and traveling. I got a little bit of a suntan. I mean, I got a little color on me, you know. I tried to stay out of the sun as best I could, but anyway. So we're gonna paint this tracer. When you hop on, say hey. This little hummingbird, and again, like I said, if you type new in the comments, it will send you all of the info that you needed. This is a Hobby Lobby sign that was on clearance for $2.74. And y'all know I love to buy some Hobby Lobby clearance signs and use them for paintings because they're already framed and they look nice. So here we go. And I turned the air off in my studio while I was gone so it didn't just like, you know, sit and run air for 8 days. And it's so hot in here. It's miserable. But anyway, we're not going to let that dampen our mood, are we now? We are going to paint a hummingbird. So first things first, what we need to do, and you know what? I don't even know that I have my tracer pages up here because I had them downstairs, but we're going to make the best of them. We're going to make the best of it. Maybe they're over here. Oh, I got one right there. Good. Okay. Yay. First thing I got to do is I have to put, I'm going to put like a coat of white on this just to have a good base and have it covered up really good so that I can not have to worry about seeing the words. So I'm just going to do a quick like coat on it. I'm actually going to add more background color, but I just want a good like, you know, a good fresh start. So we're going to cover this up. And then I'm going to go back in and blow dry it. So let's dry it and then we'll go back and put a coat, we'll sketch out our hummingbird. Now, I do have, this is still a little wet and you can still see the lines through it. I'm not really worried about that because I'm gonna, you know, be painting over it anyway. But I want to lay out my bird here, like so. And we're just going to sketch it off. And I'm not really worried about the fact that I can still see those lines, because like I said, we're gonna add a background in there and, you know, make it all pretty and stuff. So, and I only have like a small piece of my carbon paper because I left all my carbon paper downstairs to my house where I was sketching some stuff off. I'm still trying to get back in the groove of things from vacation. You know how that goes. But we did have a great time. It was a lovely vacation. I am glad to be home though, and you know, sleeping in my own bed, and you know, those back to a little bit of a routine, because I kind of thrive off routine. So I'm, you know, I'm thankful for that little bit of it. But I will say I set my alarm this morning for 6:30. I was like, I'm gonna get up early and like do the things and be productive. I'm not even gonna tell you what time I got out of bed because I'm kind of embarrassed by it. But you know, it happens. I'm still kind of in vacation mode. It happens. All right, so now I have my tracer of my Hummingbird on here. Just traced it out, okay? So it's on there. I'll just lay that to the side because I don't really need that anymore. And then I'm gonna first start by doing like my background here, okay? I'm gonna use this, I wanna do this background. And I think I wanna do like just like a little sky blue, not, maybe some grays, not anything like real bright. So I'm gonna go in and just sort of trace around like where my bird would be. Trace around all of that. Like where the bird and the flower. So we're gonna do all that. And this is kind of bright, maybe a little more blue than I want it to be, so I'm gonna tone it down just a little bit. Okay. Sorry, my phone is ringing. You know, you would think that people would like not call me when I'm on a live, but I need to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. All right, so I'm not going all the way up to the frame. I'm just gonna leave it just a little bit, like sort of right up next to the frame. I don't like to use the word messy, but I'm just sort of slapping some paint on there, you know? I mean, that's what I call it, slapping the paint on. Slapping it on. I'm gonna tilt this down just a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see. And just filling it in, filling in the bird. And I'm using the white to sort of blend a little bit to give it just a lighter shade. Maybe a little darker as I'm up next to the bird. And then there we go. And then I'm gonna fill in down here with a little bit of the blue and white. Okay. All right, so I have like my background sort of painted in like that, okay? And then I want to pull up like what a hummingbird looks like. I like to pull up like a picture of what I'm painting online. Of course, you can use my finished painting picture, you know, at the end of this video if that's what you wanted, if you were like following the tutorial. But when I'm painting something, I just like to look at nature, because am I going to get it exactly right? And is it going to look exactly, you know, perfect? No. But I'd like to get like a, just kind of like a feel of what the bird would look like in nature. So that way I can go in and add that into my painting. I don't go for like photorealism or anything like that, but I do like it to look somewhat realistic. You know, that's just, you know, we want it to look, of course, art doesn't have to match real life, so it can technically be whatever color you want it to be. So, hey Valerie! Yes, go back and watch it and paint it. I like to do them live, and then of course, I'll drop them in the portals too, and after it, you know, it goes live, and I'll put it on YouTube, but I'll also put it in the portal as well for you guys. Or actually, I don't think I put the, I'm trying to think. No, this is not your extra one, so it doesn't go in the portal, but it'll be on YouTube after 30 days after the live goes off. You can go watch it on YouTube too. So, okay, so let me think. I think I want to do my flower first because my bird's beak is going into the flower. So I want to do my flower first. And I think I want to do my flower maybe like a pinky sort of color. Let me see if I got some pink already mixed. I think I do. But I know I'm going to use some yellow. I know I'm going to use some green. So let's go ahead and pull that out. Maybe no, maybe I don't have any pink. Oh yeah, I do right here. Good. So this is kind of like a hot pink that I mixed up. I'm going to use it to work on my flower here. I'm going to get a little bit bigger brush. Let's see. I'm just going to paint the majority of this flower. And I'm going to work sort of out this way like that. I'm kind of keeping the center. I'm going to do that like little piece coming out. But I'm going to sort of fan out this pink like that, and I'm using like a flat brush so I can just pull it out and sort of follow like the look of the, or the shape of the flower. And I think I want to come in also with maybe just, I'm going to do that center like a dark, like almost black, and so I want to pull in like maybe a smidge of like yellow to make some orange. Okay, so I want to do that. So I'm just going to use this orange yellow and sort of already have the I'm using my table over here just to kind of mix. So I'm going to take this and just go around the edge and then pull in, so it sort of blends those two colors a little bit. This paint is really thick. So I'm just using my wet paint, and I don't even have to go all the way to the edge over there by the frame. This is why I love a good Hobby Lobby sign, because it's just so nice to be able to like, you know, use these signs that otherwise I'm painting right over the top of that. I would have to build out a sign or, you know, buy one already pre-made. And like, yeah, they sell these already just blank at Hobby Lobby, but I love the fact, my chair's getting caught on my rug. I love the fact that you can buy these little discount ones in all the different sizes. So I love that and be able to use them. And so I'm gonna mix a little bit of that white in with the yellow and pink and just sort of blend in a little bit of white too. I'm kind of choosing, like, I've got some lines that I had sketched out on my tracer, so I'm sort of using those as my guide for to add a little highlight here and there and to add a little bit of definition to my flower. Sort of using the white to separate maybe the petals a little bit and create a little bit of depth in my flower. I'm giving this like a little tropical sort of flower look. So I'm gonna flip that around so you can sort of see it come into life a little bit. Somewhat come into life, you know. Again, I don't go for photorealism. I just paint with joy. You know what I'm saying? I just create with some joy. And do I always like it? Maybe not, but I just keep playing with it till I get it the way I like it, and I'm satisfied. And if that means I have to like be like, okay, I gotta come back and work on this later, then I will. So don't get frustrated and don't be like, I really messed this up, because you know, you'll have those times. So I'm using the fact that this is still a little dry or still a little wet, sorry, to pull out from the center and make the center of the flower blend a little bit better. And that helps to create some depth with the flower, so it looks like it's, you know, opening up a little bit more. I'm gonna use, I don't know what color this like center of this flower is, but I feel like it should be like greens and yellows. We're gonna go with some green. We're not gonna use that green because it's dried out, but I've got some green here. I think I just want to try to do the green, and if the green looks weird, then I can always just take it off, you know, so it's not like it's a big deal. If it looks kind of weird. But I want to use that green. I think I might end up using more black and then using the green and the yellow for these little pieces, little circles on the end. I think I might end up going back and putting a little bit more black in that post. I don't know. I'm gonna look at it and kind of see. I guess this would be like a hibiscus like flower. So we're gonna look at it and see. I'm gonna kind of go with a little bit of a darker shade on this underside here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So I use the black and the green and the yellow to sort of add a little bit more depth to it. And I can even use the white on these little dots to add just a little bit of like highlight on them. Probably need like a really small brush though to do that, so that it sort of keeps. You just have to remember to always do your highlights on the same side. So if I highlighted my flower on a certain side, then I need to make sure and highlight my bird or anything else that I'm using. I want to make sure that I highlight that on the same side as well so it matches. Because you don't want to do it on the differently, because then it's going to look weird. And I'm actually going to come in here and I'm going to use the yellow to sort of add some little streaks on the edges of the flower as like a little highlight. I just like using lots of little streaky colors. Sometimes I'll use my fingers. Use the fingers to do the little extra details on there. But I just like to make it look. I learned a long time ago that when you add all these little streaks in, it just makes it look a whole lot more realistic than if you're doing it just, you know, with just painting it and blending it. So I love to do all those little streaks and wispy little brush strokes. And sometimes I find that a small brush works good, and it really just depends. And then other times I'll be like, okay, I need a bigger brush because this brush isn't doing what I want it to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so we need to add our beak. I'm gonna start by just doing this beak on my hummingbird here. I don't want it to be real thick, even though considering I am close up to my bird. I know that. I don't want it to be a really fat beak, okay? And then I want my hummingbird to have like a white belly with a little orange in it. I'm looking at a little picture of here. So I'm gonna do this all, not orange, yellow, sorry. I'm gonna do this right here. That brush is horrible, my word. Okay. So I'm gonna go in and do a coat of the white there on the belly. And then I'm gonna do a little green there. Then we'll add another little bit of green. Just sort of building it up. I want to use even like a little, just a smidge of this teal. Not a lot, but just a little bit to add just like a different shade. I want to give it, not a teal, I don't want the bird to look teal, but just to add a little bit of teal in with that green, because it sort of will give it just a little bit of a variation of color. And I'm going to use that like up here on the top of like the wings, because I want to separate the wings out. And I'm just going to go in and sort of paint everything in first, and then I'll come back and add the details to it. So I want to add a little bit of this teal in here, and we'll blend it in with some green here in a little bit, and white. And I'm just going all the way as close to the edge of my canvas as I can, or my whatever, my sign. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to pull that black up to where it gives me a little bit of black in the tip of the beak there. And I'm going to add a little purple. It's got a little purple on its belly on this picture I'm looking at. So I'm going to add a little purple on the belly. So let's do that. So this is where we're at so far. We have like that there sort of pulled in on the bird a little bit. Of course, if you're watching the replay, you can always stop and, you know, rewind or pause it. Actually, I'm going to use the pink. I want it to almost be like a magenta color. So I'm going to use the pink with just a little dab of purple on my brush. I'm going to use the pink from the flower. And I'm going to come in and put this little bit of magenta, like purpley pink in his throat here. All right, and then I want to take a little bit more white, and I want to go in and blend. I'm almost wanting my bird to have like a little bit of like a chunky like paint, not like a relief or anything. When I say relief, I mean like, you know, thick, where you can see like the paint built up, but I am trying to just add a little bit more texture to the bird. So that's requiring me to add just a little bit more of white paint. All right, so I'm going to use a little bit of the green and yellow mixed together. I'm using different shades of green, meaning I'm going to add a little yellow to it. I'm adding a little teal to it. I'm just going in and doing that because I'm wanting to create just different shades, because that adds to the dimension and the depth of the wings and all that when I can do all that and add those things in there. So that's why I'm going in and doing that. I'm actually going to come in and do a little bit of blue right there to make his back not look so thick, like he's got a humpback or a big old booty. And I'm going to use the white to add some streaks in his wings. This is where I'm really just having fun with it, honestly. Y'all know, if you've watched me paint long enough, you know that I just be slapping that paint on there. Sometimes it works, and then sometimes I'm like, well, I messed that up. So, you know, it happens. So I'm going to turn this around just so you can kind of see it up close a little bit. I think I've got paint all over my face, but so there is the bird kind of close up right now. We got to blend his throat a little bit because it looks like he got sliced in the throat and he's bleeding. And actually, I think I might thin his throat out just a little bit because I think it's too thick. Like, I think this right here, this little section there needs to be thinned out. So I'm going to use the blue and the white from the background, and I'm just going to go in and sort of thin his throat out a little bit. That's the thing that I love about paint, is if, you know, you make a mess, you can fix it. And I don't get caught up in like, oh gosh, my paint's got a little pink in it right there. You can always dry it and fix it, but I just roll with it. I don't think it takes away from the painting any. I'm actually going to go in and got a little yellow in this brush. I'm going to add it in there too. Just kind of playing around. I'm going to go back and I'm going to pull a little bit of that white up into that. Let that burgundy sort of come down a little bit. I'm gonna figure out a way to put my finger in paint every time. Let's put a little bit more green on his head, and then let's add a little highlight with some of the yellow to lighten up right there on his head a little bit. And maybe even make like a little bit of a darker green by adding some black in it to go around like underneath his eyes and right here in his body. Just a little. I don't want a lot. And I can even use this to sort of separate the wings a little bit so I can see that definition and see that it's two wings because we've got a little separation there. And I can even do some dark right underneath this wing. Yeah, I think that helps define the wings a little bit better. And that's what we want. We want the wings to be defined. I can actually put a little bit of white, more white up here, or yellow along this side of the wing to make it pop a little bit more. Let's add a little bit more white here. Okay, And I want to take my smallest brush that I had, and I want to go in and just add like a little bit of, hey Denise, I want to go in and add just a little bit of like white on top of his beak here. Well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. Do I know what I'm doing? No. But we have fun. I probably shouldn't say I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I do what works for me, you know? And I just tell you what to do, and you might be like, well, that doesn't work for me, Ashley. And I say, well, do what works for you, sis. All right, then we need to do the eyeball. We got to give him an eyeball. So I'm going to give him a eyeball there. And I want to make the green come down. I've got a little water because my paint is older and it's a little thick. It's been used a lot of times. I'm going underneath the eye and just adding a little bit of a darker shade to the eye. I'm actually going to work down a little bit of green in his beak so it's not so dark. Again, I'm leaving a little highlight in his beak, you know, because why not, right? And I'm really trying to sort of leave like a little bit more heavier white streaks in the wings to kind of give that like translucent look. I might even put like a little bit of like the background color in there as a little highlight. I just think that adds a little. You never know what Ash is going to pull out here. I think I want to bring the yellow a little bit more. Maybe pull up a little bit more yellow like around his throat here, toward the back of his head and right in there. Just kind of playing with it. And the cool thing is like you can go in and sort of do these little lines to kind of mimic like some little feathers or, you know, tufts in his yeah. All right, let's flip them around. So there he is, just looking very, very pretty. I feel like he's a little bit more like streaky than my flower, like, or like, you know, my flower looks a little bit more blended. So I'm going to go back and add, crazy enough, I think I want to use a little bit of red, you know. I think I want to pull in just a smidge of red. Not a lot, but just a little bit. Like maybe like down in here, add a little red to give some streaking. Because that red is going to work with the black. And then I sort of have the pink, and it's just gonna add a little bit, I think, like another layer, especially like right in here where it's right next to like the beak. I kind of want it to be a little bit darker, and I want the I want there to be that red like from the shadow, I guess you could say. I mean, and I could do red around the edges. It might not be a bad idea to maybe potentially create like a little bit of like, then let's go back with a little bit of white and see how I'm just sort of adding in like little brush strokes. I'm not really making, I mean, honestly, like, I just kind of play with it. I just let my hands just go, and then if I look at it and I go, oop, that should not have been there, then I just go back and take it off. Like, I think sometimes we overcomplicate and we make art a lot harder than it needs to be. Like, you know, some people are just so naturally gifted and they can paint anything and everything, and it makes me sick. You know, my dad is a lot like that. He's a very talented artist, photorealism painter, and it amazes me how he can just, you know, put things together and make something just come to life. I don't really have that gift like he does, but I enjoy trying to make myself think I have that gift. But he's really good at just bringing a painting to life, and he's an amazing wildlife painter. So you can see how I added that in there, and it does just sort of give this a little bit, it matches my bird a little bit more. And maybe that's not how I intended it to happen in the beginning, but I'm doing it that way because I want it to match. I don't want my bird or my flower, I don't want one thing to be really blended and then the other thing to look, you know, kind of choppy or, you know, whatever. So this sort of adding those little brush strokes in there made my flower and my hummingbird sort of look a little bit more cohesive, which is what you want. You want it to look, you don't want your one thing to be in a certain style and then another thing to be in a different style, and then it is going to have a weird look to it if that's the case. So you do want it to look similar as you can get it. And I'm actually going to even use like a little bit of more green down here in the center of my flower, that, you know, just to add some brush strokes of green in there and pull in some. So yeah. Now I do want to go back and work on my background a little bit more. Reason being is I want my background to still have, you know, some streaks in it too, because I made it a little bit more like blended. So I can add those, I can add a little bit of texture. I might even use this bigger brush. I don't know. We're going to see how it does. But I think I want to pull in like a little bit of like the teal and the green. Not a whole lot. So I'm going to kind of work it back and forth on my table here and blend it a little bit. And then I'll come in and add some brush strokes. Probably going to need to pick up a little bit more white here and there. Might even throw in some yellow, like, you know, just do my thing, you know, play around. Because I'm trying to create just a really like abstract background and letting my bird and this brush honestly is sort of almost like a dry brush. Like, it's not putting a whole lot of paint on the brush, okay? It's really not. So let's kind of look at that and see where we're at. I think that's looking pretty good. Pretty good. Hey, Laura. So that's kind of where we're at on that. Maybe we'll do, let's pick up a brush that's not so dry. And let's pop in like some white, just like some bright white. I always feel like I'm kind of a messy, like, painter. I just be throwing stuff on there, you know. But I love how it just comes to life. The more you just kind of keep playing with it, it comes to life on you. And I actually want to come down and sort of add like a little highlight on the top of that a little bit more, and on the top of my bird's beak, just to help give it a little bit more of a dimension, some dimension there. Okay, and I can even go in with like a smaller brush, like on the bottom of these little circles here with a little bit of black, and sort of round off the bottom. Sorry, I'm trying to get a little thin, like, and what that'll do is it'll sort of make those look a little more round. And I put that white little highlight on the top, so it's gonna give the illusion of a more rounded appearance on the little center of my flower. Just gonna help those little circles sort of stand out a little bit. Yeah, look how pretty. Okay. And what I think I want to do here is I don't want to create like an outline, but I do want to be able to see like the edge of my hummingbird just a little bit. So I'm going to use like a really pale gray around the edge right here. I'm probably going to keep going back over it till it ends up just being white, but that little bit there, I think it just like, I'm going to make that just a little bit more pink too. I just kind of keep playing with it until I'm like, okay, I need to stop, because sometimes you can work it to death and you don't want to do that. You don't want to work it to the point where you lose it, and you have to be like, I'm covering this whole thing up, because I've been there too. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. It happens. But I'm wanting to create like a little shadow on his back right here. So I'm darkening that up just a little bit, because what that does is it brings that wing forward. Like if putting that shadow like right there, it brings this wing in front, okay? And that's what I want. So I want to pull that wing in front, and that shadow helps to do that. And I know what you're thinking, that looks really harsh, Ashley, but I need it to anchor the back of my hummingbird a little bit, okay? To make that wing a little bit more prominent. And I always try to remember that a lot of times when you're painting, you're gonna think a shadow is gonna look really harsh, but then when you step back from it, it doesn't look harsh. It's just, you're used to seeing it more close up because that's how you've painted it, okay? So that's something to keep in mind, is you want to keep it a little bit darker, because that automatically separates those wings now. And this darker piece right here separates the other wing. And then by creating the dark and dark down here, you're creating the illusion that stem, or this little piece coming out, is sitting down in the flower and it's blossomed out, okay? Am I like a photorealism painter? No, but I'm trying to create a little bit of realism in the painting. So that's sort of my just quick little tip for you. I don't go for photorealism because your girl ain't that good, okay? But I can wing it enough to make it look pretty, you know? To make it look like it's supposed to, for the most part. And then of course, you know, you always want to sign your art. So I always just will put a little AC down here on there. Yeah, gotta shine it. But I think this one turned out really, really pretty. Yeah, and literally we went from this tracer to this, and everybody's is gonna look different. I hope you try it. I hope you send me pictures of it if you try it. Like I said, you can grab this tracer, just the tracers on my website. If you type in the word new in the comments, it will, or on any post, it will send you a link to all of the tracers that I have available that you can download. It comes right to your email. You click on the link and download it, and you can grab that tracer and paint one for yourself. Of course, you can always refer to this video. After 30 days, it goes to YouTube, and you can find it over there because it will delete here on Facebook. I'll upload it to YouTube later today for you to watch, but you can grab the tracer and paint one for yourself. And this is my version. So I hope you enjoyed watching it, and I look forward to seeing you painting it up with one of the Hummingbird tracers. So I hope you have a good day, friend, and I will see you next time.